Like and subscribe. Now let me get straight to it. Native Americans were here when Columbus got here. So Columbus did not discover America. And see, we have to understand that America, with all due respect, lies about history. You can't believe anything America says about history unless you research it for verification. And most things, if you research for verification, you're going to find that it's basically a lie. The war for independence was not a war for independence. The war was about taxation without representation. What was being taxed that the United States became upset about? The tax on slaves. The tax on slaves is what is meant by taxation without representation. Britain had colonies in Africa. So, of course, they felt that the slaves being taken out of Africa was their property, was their property. And if you're going to take their property, you are going to pay for it, especially if you are nothing more than another colony of the United Kingdom or British Empire. That's how that works. Now, did the United States defeat Britain? No. No, the United States did not defeat Britain, and it could not defeat Britain. It didn't have the firepower to defeat Britain. But the reality of the situation is that the war became economically unfeasible. It was a waste of money because all England had to do was to stop the transatlantic slave trade, which they did later on. Now, a lot of know-it-alls will say, no, we gained our independence in 1776. No. I don't even know where they got that number, that date, 1776. The war for taxation without representation started in 1775. The war ended in 1783. It was ratified, or the treaty was signed May 12th, 1784. That is when the treaty was signed. And I'm going to tell you something else. Giving a country its freedom does not mean that they are still not a part of your colony. And this can be understood if you look at what's happening in Africa. I mean, these countries are supposedly free, but they are still colonies of the United Kingdom. They are still colonies of the United Kingdom. But freedom means self-governance. Self-governance to do what? Self-governance to do what they want you to do what they order you to do. Let me explain something. All colonizers want the resources of the place they colonize. They don't want them to have enough resources to become a threat to them. So Britain wanted to hold the United States down. They did not want the United States to become equal to Britain, especially in military force. Another problem with the United States is that they made it more profitable for kings of Africa to sell to sell the slaves to merchants, because they were getting in return, they were getting goods, beer, and most importantly, they were getting guns. They were getting guns. And it was the guns that the African nations wanted to fight off colonizers and to fight off other tribes and to take them as slaves so that they could sell them and receive more weapons. And that didn't sit well with Britain. And if you're going to sell, and if you're going to sell our slaves who they felt they owned, then you're going to pay us for that and pay us good. And that is what's meant by taxation without representation. Britain is telling you what to do and taxing you, and you have no representative say in the matter. You see, Britain ended slavery in 1833. Why did Britain end slavery in 1833? Because they didn't need it. They didn't need it. They were giving the colonies the freedom to govern themselves, but with that freedom to govern themselves came, you can govern yourself, but you have to send the money and the resources over here. So how you govern yourself to send the money and the resources to us, we don't care. We don't care. You can call yourself a citizen of the United Kingdom, of the UK, United Kingdom, but you will serve the United Kingdom. How you choose to do it, we don't care. Just keep sending the money over here. And France did the same thing. And if the United States would have persisted in this war, Britain could easily have gotten French to join in and take down the United States, because France wanted their colonies to have their people to work to provide the resources to France, to keep sending the resources to France. This is why you have the situation going on in Niger now, because now the people realize they weren't free. And if you want to call it freedom, they were indentured servants, because they were paying for their freedom. They were paying for it. See, that colonization doesn't need slaves. Colonization doesn't need slaves. It allows you to think you're free. Colonization is like having slaves, and then after they finish working for you, they can work for somebody else after you make money for them. See, that's like indentured servitude, colonization, same thing. In fact, paying taxes in colonization is the same thing. They only take less of your money. But if you're rich, you can get away with not paying taxes at all. Then you are not colonized. So you see what I'm saying? Now, the next video I'm going to go to is I'm going to explain to you why the United States is a colony. You see, we print money and we give it to the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve loans us the money back at interest. But the Federal Reserve is not a government organization. It is privately owned. And it is probably the owners of the Federal Reserve are probably in the UK. But that's for another video. But the thing I want you to understand is that taxation without representation was not about independence. It was about slavery. It was about slavery. And the transatlantic slave trade was about slavery. And Britain figured, hey, it's not economically feasible to keep this war up when all we have to do is stop the ships from coming over. And that's cheaper. And that's exactly what they did. And when that happened, the United States had to do what? They had to breed. They had to breed slaves. And it was in 1809 was when Britain totally stopped slaves from coming into the United States. 1809, they cut it, period. And like I said before, that stopped Africans from receiving weapons in which to defend themselves. And this made it easier, of course, for Britain to colonize all of Africa, including the Africans who were capturing other Africans and selling them into slavery. When their ammunitions or whatever ran out, then Britain could take everybody, the kings and everybody else. And those kings, of course, they had to sign a treaty, a colonization treaty, similar to what France had with Niger. You give us your wealth, and we're going to take 90% of your resources, and we're going to give you 10%, which keeps them in poverty and keeps them down. With that, like and subscribe, and have a nice day.